Bert! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. All right, so if this sounds any different, like in my intro, I have all my traveling podcast gear packed away. So we're using my directional mic. So if that doesn't bother you and you'd like to win something, how's that? Well, is that a way to start off, huh? Go to my Instagram account, and we have the BHA Rendezvous in Minneapolis. We have floor tickets for the whole shenanigans. I think, I forget what the value of it is, but there's a brewery invite in there. Of course, you can come by my booth, which will have my 4-wheel camper at it. Most of the meat eater, half of the meat eater office is going to be there. So you might even just, if you're a signature hound, you might want to run around and say, "Oh, can I get your signature, Cal? Hey, Chili. Hey," all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so go to my Instagram, and it's real simple, typical Instagram sweepstakes. Put your name and get somebody else to like something or however. You'll figure it out. And the Pudelpointer episode that we did with Bob Ferris, that was magnificently edited and compiled and just blood, sweat, and tears put in by Matt, my favorite editor, literally. Out of all my editors, Matt is my favorite editor. He does the best work. Anyway, for those of you who did not buy it when it came out, and I know some of you are like, it's been $4. But anyway, that has now been out for a while, and we are putting that on YouTube. So look for, that's going to come out, I think, in 3 parts or something like that. And it's, by the time you listen to this, you can, if you're, when you're just chilling later on, you go to YouTube like you always do, and you start Googling like I do, like old man jiu-jitsu or, whatever you Google. Go to Hunting Dog Podcast YouTube channel and start watching the Bob Ferris interview we did. I mean, and it's not just an interview. Some of the things on there are just interview. This is the one we put together for video production. You see the dogs Bob's talking about. You see the places he's hunting. You see his dogs in the backyard while he's talking to me and while I'm asking him questions. It's really, really cool. Just check it out. That is up and running as of the time you will be listening to this. I guarantee it. Or at least if not, my daughter Jessie didn't get it up. But she did mention that she would get that put up today. And yeah, I'm okay. There, enough of that, right? What else we need to know is this title sponsor of this show has not changed. Of course it hasn't. It's OnX Hunt. They have a promo code of HDP20 for the Elite Series. Okay? But I know almost all of you already have OnX. So let's just thank OnX for them helping me and helping so many other people into industries produce the content that gets them, like on every vehicle, every phone, every iPad, that, it's like world domination. It is a little bit, but it's good world domination. It's the same kind of domination Gunner Kennels has in the transport kennel world. There is not a better kennel made, period. Put them side by side, drop a tree on them, shoot them with the 12 gauge up close, take the dog out. Even though it works, I would not want to take a chance. There are some little slotted windows where the BBs could go through. But go ahead, take your buddy's kennel and your Gunner kennel and say, come on, let's do something stupid. Let's have a beer and do something stupid. Let's shoot both of our kennels with a 12 gauge. And then you'll see why they have world dominance. It's like world dominance in the dog hunting supply is W Supply, because they are the world dominant leader in hunting dog supplies. So, I mean, I don't know. It seems like now that I look at this, like Canine Athlete is the world dominant company that makes human and canine nutrition. Show me another one who puts, and by the way, I should have a whole bunch of Canine Athlete, not a whole bunch of Canine Athlete. I'll have some samples, but I will have a bunch of Wilderness Athlete products at my camper booth at BHA Rendezvous. Garmin, absolutely world domination. I don't know. You can't even argue that. I don't care if you're a fisherman, an astronaut, a pilot. What else? Everybody uses Garmin. I mean, I see people like here's the problem. I start seeing somebody wearing like a Garmin watch, and I'm like that progressive guy. Oh, so what kind of dog you got? And they look at me like, what? What? And I said, oh, you got a Garmin watch. Well, okay, world domination. Mossberg, world domination. All over the planet, made in America, and shot in America, shot around this. They've been in like 2 world wars, and I don't know how many conflicts. I mean, obviously, world domination. Boss shot shells, they may not have world domination, but they dominate the world in non-tox shot. Now that's no bananas. Boss shot shell is the only copper-plated bismuth shell out there. And I'm not going to tell you to hurry up and get next year's, but I wouldn't dilly and I wouldn't dally. Purina Pro Plant, absolutely world domination in the dog food world. Be honest with you, all the other ones that you're hearing about now or heard about in the recent last years, where were they before? They weren't there because Purina's been there for 100 years making food for the sporting dog world, and they sponsor everything we do outside with our dogs. Walton's dominates the kitchen supply, wild game kitchen supply. They dominate. There is no other. I've yet to see another kitchen utensil and what else would you call it? Kitchen utensil and product lineup. Anyway, get the Walton's catalog, and if you don't find when you do get the Walton's catalog, first and foremost, and you start going through it, and then you're like going, oh God, wish I could save a few pennies on this. Don't forget, to all listeners, HTP10 saves you 10% on your Walton's purchase. And back to K9 Athlete, if you type in K9 Athlete, and don't spell it out like Kaynine, no, K, letter K, 9 numeral athlete, you get 25% off your first purchase. And Marshwear, world dominance. All right, that might be a stretch, but in the future, they're going to be North American dominant. They have everything I need. I have not worn it for hunting season because they just jumped on as a sponsor. But I've got a whole bunch of gear that they have already given me and I have worn, and I can see me putting miles in. Anyway, they also, for all you listeners, have a promo code of HDP15. So try some Marshwear and save 15%. World domination in the camper world, in the 4-wheel camper world, in the backcountry, in the back. God, it might be a stretch because I only heard of them last year. But in my opinion, they dominate the camper world. 4-wheel camper, the Model M is what I haul. I've got custom-made dog boxes. I've got my Gunner dog boxes in there. I've got everything I need for the trip, and a king-size bed to sleep in. Now, I don't know what else a person could want. I have no idea. You know what you could want to join Patreon, because you heard me mention some of these discounts, right? Well, Patreon has a program. No, that's not right. I have a Patreon program. I have patrons. In other words, I have hundreds of people that are members of my Patreon group, and they get deeper discounts. And in some cases, it should be against the law, the discount size. But you don't get that unless you're a Patreon patron. You go to Patreon, look up Hunting Dog Podcast or / Hunting Dog Podcast. You'll find it. You're not stupid. And right now, my second level of patron, I don't only have 2 levels. Just like everybody jump in, come to the Zoom rooms, get some extra content. Everybody gets the discount codes. But I am putting out once a month the history of my dogs, unedited, unabashed, and well, anyway, it's fun. You hear You will hear stuff about my dogs that you will never, in some cases, not even legally able to hear about on a podcast. So that's the backstory of my dogs that starts back 40 years ago. That's a little fun thing if you want to be the second tier. That's it. I mean, like I said, we already said the Ronde, the BHA Ronde giveaway. The Pudelpointer episodes start releasing on Sundays. First one will be out today. I don't know. Shit. That's not bad for everything I covered. Let's be honest. 10 minutes and 3 seconds. You can't bitch about that. And if you skipped, well, and now you're picking it up because I'm about ready to, then that's your loss. Okay? And everybody else wins. Love you guys. I love you girls. I love you girls more. All right. Everything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law, Brittany. Hey, everybody. I have Brittany French on a Zoom interview today. And Brittany French, I use the word CEO. I guess it really doesn't matter. Is that the right term, CEO? What would you be? Director?
That is the right term, but we are all on the equal playing ground in our program.
And
Boots on the ground.
the organization is Pass It On Outdoor Mentors. Or do we just go by Pass It On? How do you like to do it?
We do a little bit of both. Pass it on, outdoor mentors. You can throw it all together.
The acronym wouldn't come out good. It'd be POOM POM. No, we'll forget the acronym. Well, Brittany, give us a little overview, and then I've got a bunch of questions. But give us a little overview of Pass It On Outdoor Mentors.
Yeah, well, we got started back in 2002, and our mission is to empower kids in the outdoors by serving them through mentorship. So, big picture, we get kids out hunting and fishing.
Where do you grab the old phone book, or where do you find? I mean, because as I said before we hit record, there's a lot of organizations and some of the big NGOs and that all have a youth focus or a youth day. It sounds like you have a youth year, right? I mean, this is all you do. Where do you find all? I mean, you're only in, from last I looked on your website, 4 states, and you started in Kansas, right?
Yeah, so we historically got started with programs like Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Ron, but
Oh, that's old
they,
school. Yeah.
yeah, they do mentoring. They're the OGs at mentoring, is what I would say. And so they really focus on serving kids in a one-on-one situation. So if I was the mentor, I'd be matched to a young girl, and I would hopefully make a positive impact on her life through our
Right.
match, right? So back in 1999, I'll go give you some tenure here. Kansas introduced their first youth upland season
Okay.
where kids could get out and hunt the week before adults could. And so a lot of folks kind of murmured around like, well, how can we take advantage of that? What can we do? And the perfect storm happened, if you will. Mike Christensen, our program founder and president, happened to know the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters here in Wichita, Kansas at the time. And a few other guys got together and said, we should take Big Brothers Big Sisters kids out and see if
Ah,
they'll like it. Yeah, so these kids are, typically inner city kids from a family of strife, I would say, whether there's incarceration or drug use, or maybe that's just not an ideal family structure. So kids who are definitely not typically out hunting in the weekends, right?
right.
So they trained these kids up through Hunter Ed, and then they took them out hunting that first season. And these kids were blue in the face and red in the face from huffing and puffing through the field. And if you would have asked him in that moment, Mike thought, well, these kids aren't going to like this. They're not going to want to go again. By the time they got to the end of that field, they couldn't wait to go again. They were
Ah.
so excited, so thankful for the opportunity. So that was where the light bulb moment happened. And it was, we need to steward this better. We need to create outdoor opportunities for kids just like these kiddos.
Is Big Brothers and Big Sisters still a conduit for you to work with, or is that just something that it
Yeah.
started as?
Yeah, so it definitely started as that, and you asked where we find kids, and that was kind of the foundation of our program, if you will. And so since then, we've really been able to flourish and expand our reach realizing that not just big brothers, big sisters kids want to get out and hunt and fish, but really most kids want to learn how if they don't have the opportunity to. So we serve kids from a gamut of avenues. Only requirement is that they're 11 years of age with hunter education. So these
Yeah.
kids are coming from big brothers, big sisters. They're coming from youth groups. They're recent hunter education graduates. A lot of our kids are from the Scholastic Clay Target program or the USA Clay Target League. So they're shooting trap. And then we're just taking them and teaching them how to be hunters with that skill.
Right. You're stretching out that skill. Because I was watching this morning the episode you did with the flush.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I saw a couple of those kids with over under shotguns, and they were pretty quick on the target. And I was like, okay, these aren't somebody, and no offense, these aren't somebody that Brittany taught to shoot. These guys could
Exactly.
shoot. These guys could shoot already.
Yes. Yeah. Those kids have been shooting and are shooting 10 times more than I because of that sport. Incredible.
I had an opportunity. CZ was involved with our podcast a few years ago, and they invited me to the Scholastic shoot in Ohio, and
Wow.
it it was like going to Pheasant Fest for kids with guns. And I would assume 11 was the age. I don't know what age they can do it in school, but probably I saw kids that young. And what really knocked me out was they had, because it's a big shooting course, they did have golf carts for rent in some cases. And I literally did not see parents. All I saw was golf carts of kids with guns with barrels up, flying around on golf carts, dumping out at a sporting clays target or a trap range or the skeet range, doing their thing, unloading their guns, back in the golf cart. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't let my girls run around with guns and golf carts till they were about 15, but it was eye-opening to see that
Yeah.
that the responsibility of because the scariest part of all this, and I've said this, I've had other people on, we've talked about youth programs. The scariest part about me is the gun. I mean, you've got to answer to, the parent or the town or the police if something happens. That's got to be a little stressful at some point. Again, getting the ones on the flush from the Scholastic program, you weren't too worried about it. What's it like when you get, let's say, and we're going to focus on some, fishing and archery. You do a whole plethora of events, but obviously bird hunting is near and dear to the Hunting Dog podcast. When
Absolutely.
you take, let's say, an 11-year-old, they've got their hunter safety. What do you put them? Do you put them through an additional course, or do you mentor them with a shooting instructor? How do you do it?
That's a good question. I think this is kind of what sets us apart a little bit, right, from a lot of these other mentoring programs, is that we have program coordinators who are dedicated to doing just this one thing, and that is coordinating and facilitating all of our events. So over 800 events this last year that we planned, right? We had individuals in each of our states putting together the time frames, the schedules, lining up volunteer mentors, making sure those mentors are background checked, right? Coordinating and relaying all the details of each event and what's to be expected, and then ultimately following up on the event. How did it go? So part of that is when we're coordinating these events, we get to know these kids really well. So we know right away if they're coming from a trap shooting background or if they're first time hunter ed, students. I'll give you a great example. We just worked with a group. It's called Trail Life. It's like the Christian version of Boy Scouts. Great group. Obviously, these kids were very new to hunting. Most of them have never shot a gun before. A lot of them were just of age to take hunter ed. So what we did in this particular situation, we took them out on a preserve hunt. So 2 parts there. We were able to get to the preserve. We did some actual trap shooting. We talked about how birds flush and how they could look and what are appropriate shooting lanes. Why do we walk in a line? A lot of the basic safety before we even took the field. And then when we were able to get the dogs out, we were able to let these kids see the dogs work and let them know, hey, the handler is going to take care of the dog. So if that dog goes on point, we're going to wait, tune into that handler and listen to what the next steps are. So it's a really controlled situation when we're talking about kids who are brand new. We
Yeah.
really make sure they have the confidence and the ability to walk a field. You know, some of these kids who are 11 aren't quite strong enough to shoulder that gun for a whole field, right? So we really have honest conversations and rely on our volunteer mentors to say, like, this is no longer a safe situation, or, you know, buddy, I think maybe you need to take a little break. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll get back after it.
So there's a lot of life lessons here. They're not just getting to go hunting because, you know, you could hear a bunch of guys my age or Brett's age say like, "Boy, these kids just don't listen anymore," right? But that's
Yes.
not an option on something like this. Not
No.
listening, right? That would
Yeah.
be a little, you know, the same thing going taking them canoeing or anything where there's you know, kids by nature at some point they're going to want to be silly or they're going to um I would be like, I don't know how you took this on. And you said 800 events,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
sure you weren't all hunting, but I mean, 800
Hunting and fishing.
mostly hunting and fishing. I
Mostly hunting and fishing.
I'd be okay with the fishing because the most you're going to probably get is a hook in the lip. But
Yeah, right, right. Well, you know, Ron, the one thing I love about this, and over the course of our tenure, we've had no injuries, no incidents, and there's a couple of reasons why is we focus so sternly on safety. I
right,
mean, it's a no funny business kind of
right,
sport. You and I both know that. And these kids, when you sit a kiddo down and explain to them what they're about to embark on, and you tell them at the end of a barrel is death, and you can't take back that trigger pull,
yeah,
they perk up pretty quick. And
yeah,
I think when you give them the opportunity to take on that responsibility, you realize they take it very seriously.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I love being able to do that. That opportunity is incredible. And I always talk to people too. You mentioned it's got to be scary, kids and guns, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's always going to be that fear lingering. And I think we live in a world where, you know, tragedies are happening day after day, and it's horrible. My response is always, it's not if these kids are going to be around guns in their life, it's when they will be around guns in their
Right.
life, that they know how to be safe. They know how to take care of themselves and others.
How many, I mean, roughly, you may not have an exact number. How many, with that many events, I'm sure this is a growing organization. So I
Yes,
would
sir.
bet you had a few less than that the year before and a few. How many
Yes.
children has the group put through over 20 plus years? Do you know?
Man, I wish I had that number. I don't have that number because we've gone through a few like iterations, I guess, if you will, of the kids we serve, where when
Mhm.
we were serving Big Brothers, Big Sisters, we served hundreds of matches at a time. And then we kind of dwindled down because Big Brothers, Big Sisters changed some of their policies with firearms, the youth they were serving. But this last year, we served just right under 2,000 kids this one calendar year in 2023.
That's a lot of work. And is this basically when you find your mentors and your volunteers, is every, I don't, not saying with every organization there's a paid staff, but are you counting on a lot of volunteer hours for all these events?
Yeah, yeah, we are. So we do have paid staff to do the heavy lifting of finding the access, lining
Mm.
up volunteer mentors, and probably the most complicated part is communicating with parents and finding the right kids to make sure they're appropriate fit for the event, right? So
Right.
our program coordinators are taking care of that, but we do rely heavily on our volunteer mentors, and they come from the ranks of conservation groups to, you know, retired folks to, you know, some people who are just really excited about giving back.
I would imagine probably quite a few military personnel probably get involved.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit, a little bit. I would say predominantly our main groups are conservation groups, that our
Mhm.
main volunteers are conservation group folks who get involved.
And they'll help find those people for those events and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of it too, Ron. And I don't know, I'm sure you're part of a Pheasants Forever chapter and some other groups. Y'all do great work fundraising for habitat and fundraising for conservation, and, you know, doing what you like to do as Pheasants Forever. And a lot of groups we found, not just PF, QF, but we collaborate with them and just take on their responsibility of their youth event.
Right.
So
So you
instead of
become an arm of it instead of them trying to do one event a year or two. They're like, they could pass that interest on from their members to you, to your program.
yeah, Yeah, so then we collaborate, and the great thing about what we do, and I just get so excited about this because I think this is how you make generational impact and get someone really excited about the outdoors, is we don't just have them go on one event with us. You know, you don't just go kick up a rooster and shoot it and then you're done. We want these kids to hunt with us as often and as many times as they want. We've got some kids who have hunted with us 10, 12 times a year,
So
and they come back and they
you
come back.
become their dad, mom, and uncle and aunt. They're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm going hunting with my aunt and uncle again." Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're creating relationships with people who would most likely never have come together, right?
Yeah.
And providing the opportunity for them to really grow and develop in the outdoors. And what I love too is that these kids are now becoming aware of Pheasants Forever and of Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and of all these other groups and chapters that they can eventually belong to.
Right. Right.
And that's great. I don't know if you're like as into the research as I am, but a lot of the generational pull, right? Like, so myself, I grew up hunting, love that opportunity. I'm very privileged. My husband didn't. And it wasn't because his family wasn't interested, right? His dad grew up doing it. Then they moved states, then they moved towns.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he found himself in a situation where he didn't have land access or the time to take four kids out hunting and teach them how
Right.
to do it.
Right.
Consequently, my husband has never hunted until he met me.
I love that.
And then we try to go out and hunt, and turns out I'm not a very good instructor to him. But the big picture there is there's a lot of people like my husband who didn't have the opportunity to be educated and taught about hunting and fishing.
Right.
And they're now raising families. And
Yeah.
so what we're trying to do is get that excitement up and increase that awareness of how great this sport is as a family unit.
Yeah. And being in the outdoors, there is anybody who spends enough time out there, you do gain a little more responsibility, a little bit more. Uh, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. A little bit of maturity comes with that, maybe sooner than it would have in their life. Which, even if they don't hunt when they get older, they'll pick up some skills from that. 100%
Mhm.
that will carry them on to, just like I could picture. I've got friends whose wives and husbands are school teachers, and they talk about how hard it is to communicate with the kids in this. But you get them in a different kind of classroom, and the learning just has to come a little easier, or it's a little more focused, and that's got to carry them on. Whether they, what's the it's the word I'm not really good with that word. Recidivism. What's the word when somebody comes back and does something over and
Like a
over?
recidivism, is that what it
That's
is?
what it is. Yeah. Yeah. I only
Yeah.
went to high school, so we gotta forgive me on that. But because this program is so old, like I said, I was shocked to see that it started that many years ago.
Yeah.
Have any of the kids come through the program and come back to the program as adults?
Oh, yes, yeah. We do have some really incredible stories where kids started with us at 11 and now are my age, right? Like they're in their 30s and they have families and they're still hunting and they're also volunteering with us.
Nice.
And it's a pretty incredible thing.
Yeah. How did you mentioned you got to hunt and shoot early? How did you learn?
Yeah.
Like, what was the backstory there for you?
Well, I was definitely a tomboy, and my mom was very against me doing the boy things, typical boy things, right? Even though I kind of grew up and ran the gamut of sports and riding horses and rodeo and ranching, hunting was never something that was encouraged until I just got excited and said, I want to go. And so I luckily had some uncles and my grandparents, my grandpas, kind of take me under their wing and show me the ropes and get me excited about that. And eventually I was able to start hunting with some of my buddies from high school and just fell in love with it. I mean, just really appreciated it. It helped with at the gun club. When I was too little to shoot, my friends and I would go out there and we'd work. So we'd go down and reload the targets and
Yep.
work the concession stand. And I mean, it was just such great memories I have growing up, that really inspired me to keep doing it.
You said something that jumped out at me with all the, I wrote a couple notes from fishing, camping, hiking, bird watching, archery. Are the Boy Scouts getting miffed at you? I mean, are the Boy Scouts dwindling and this getting bigger? What's going on with the Boy Scouts? You're taking away their merit badges.
we've tried to work with Boy Scouts, and we don't get as many groups out as much as we'd like to.
'Cause it sounds just like it would have been when I was a kid, all those things, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to think we're providing an opportunity that is a little too scary and too much for others to facilitate. And so we can kind of be that conduit and just like plug and play with a lot of these different groups.
Um, does it do you get to a point where there's big game and rifles too, or do you stay to
Oh, yeah.
the small game side of things?
We hunt every type of species you can imagine, Ron. So you mentioned 4 states. We're actually operating in 3 states right now and have interest to expand to 2 more. So hopefully that's going to be happening here soon. But right now it's Kansas, Iowa, and Wisconsin. So we do upland, we do waterfowl, dove hunting, deer, turkey. We've had some kids go on pronghorn hunts. Hopeful in Wisconsin will get some kids on some grouse. Like it's really neat. We've done fly fishing and basic pond dock fishing. I mean, you name it. We do a little bit of everything.
That's got to be kind of how do you find the kid that's lucky enough to get a pronghorn hunt?
You know, right? Those are slim.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's got you got 800 events last year. There wasn't 800 pronghorn hunts for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's really fun to see the change in interest of kids. Some years we'll have kids who all they want to do is go waterfowl hunting. I mean, we
Yeah,
get inquiries all the time. Can you take me out to shoot my first duck?
yeah.
The next year it's all about deer hunting and then it's all about turkey hunting. So we kind of have these waves of interest from kids and what they want to help out with.
It's going. I was gonna make a comment about dove hunting. Like the last thing I would do is bring a child. I end up saying a child, a young person. I wouldn't bring the person dove hunting because the amount of shells you go through and the amount of frustration. You, is that a good? But the upside of the dove hunt is you can kind of sit on a bench or you can sit on a bucket and you can really watch so maybe it is it a good first or
Yes. I would almost kind of argue with you there, Ron, and say that's the best way to get a kid out. And that's my history, right? Like I grew up sitting on a bucket, missing every shot I took, but I thought I was hunting. I thought I was doing a good job, and I had the opportunity to learn and understand that way. You'll kind of appreciate this story. So we serve a lot of these kids, and I say kids, this is a young adult situation
yeah,
on the Scholastic Clay Target program, right? So that runs from really elementary, middle school, all the way through college.
yeah.
So our Wichita State University, I live in Wichita, Kansas right now. They have a trap team, and it's a really great trap team. And so dove season was opening up a couple years ago, and I thought we need to get these kids out dove hunting. I'm
Mhm.
curious how well they would do because these kids are, I mean, breaking 100 in a row
Oh yeah,
every single day, right? Like, let's just see how many dove they can knock down. So, Cheney Reservoir, Cheney Wildlife Area is just west of Wichita, Kansas here, and it's great for dove hunting, and it's pretty close to the big city, so it's a great opportunity for inner city folks to get out and kind of go hunting when they are limited on time. So we managed to get a dove plot reserved for us for the opening day. We were very thankful for that partnership and that opportunity. And we went out there, and these kids missed and missed and missed and missed. And
good, good.
I mean, golly, the coach out there was just laughing. He goes, "All right, this is going to determine, our starting lineup this next week. Who's going to hit the most?" We had one kid look down. And he goes, "Well, I've gone through about a box of ammo, and I have 3 dove."
Yeah, well, that's about yeah. It's probably a little lower than me, but I'm usually like 5 for a box. I need to bring 3 boxes out, and that's why I was thinking. Safety wise, it's great, but it's great to hear that I'll pick on them. These hot shot Scholastic, like you said, they could break 100 clay targets.
Yeah.
It ain't so easy when there's a 50-mile-an-hour dove going side to side.
Exactly. Very humbling. That's exactly what he said. One kiddo next to me goes, "These don't fly like a target." Like,
Yeah,
no,
no kidding. But they eat better.
they sure don't. They sure don't. They do taste better. And I tell you what was great about that is, I mean, all these kids were kind of cackling and laughing and just giving each other a rash of crap about it. And
Yeah,
you don't get that in the deer blind. You got to be a little more quiet. And even
right.
upland hunting, you can't really be hooping and hollering all that much. So it's just it is a cool bonding experience for whether it's a team like that or if a parent tags along and is with their kiddos
Yeah.
in that situation.
Is there a little child mentoring to parents in this thing? Do we get some parents involved through the kids? Kids come first and parents come second?
I wish we had more data on that, and I'm trying to be more proactive about gathering some of that. Definitely have some anecdotal stuff we can share, but we
Mhm.
see a lot of parents, who used to hunt and then all of a sudden they started their career, they're raising children. The first hobby to go is the expensive ones, right? So buy golf, buy hunting.
Right.
And so a lot of the parents will bring their kiddos out and be like, I used to waterfowl hunt. And now I see them, little Johnny over here is waterfowl hunting and really liking it. Maybe it's time for me to get back involved.
Mhm.
Equally, we see a lot of parents who have not ever hunted show interest. Do you guys have a parent program? How do I get involved? How do I take my first shots? And so we certainly help facilitate that the best we can. A
But
lot of
that's
our land
not the focus, not the focus.
Correct. Yeah, a lot of our land access for deer hunting, especially in Kansas, you can imagine there's plenty of deer, especially doe. So we run into like depredation issues. So landowners will say, hey, if a kiddo wants to come hunt and their parent is qualified and certified, they can also buy a tag.
Nice.
Shoot a couple does and share that bonding experience. And we certainly do that. And it's pretty neat to see.
Well, I didn't need it growing up when I grew up, but I could see if I kind of wish my kids would be moving to Kansas right now. That way I could guarantee my grandkids
Huh?
would have the opportunity because you did strike something on a nail on the head. As soon as you get married and you've just had a baby, right?
Yep,
I didn't
I
ask you
did.
what's the baby's name?
Yeah, her name is Finley.
Finley. Oh my God, that's a long story. That was in the running for the last grandchild we
All
had.
right.
That was in the running. Um,
I love
and once that comes, it's not like it was in the 60s and 70s or 50s where, the mom stayed at home and the dad went to work and then the dad could go golfing because, well, he's gone a lot. Now there's needs to be so much co-parenting and two incomes. Yeah, it's almost like you're serving another purpose instead of daycare. You're covering the outdoor care.
Yeah, you're
You know?
right. Well, it's just like facilitating how much better that is than sitting in front of your TV or, getting off this computer that we carry around in our pocket every day, right? Like parents and families kind of get to bond in the outdoors and realize that it's so much more relatable than trying to figure out what TV show we all mutually like.
Yeah. Do you well, we all know we love The Bachelor. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah.
God, don't
We
do
know
that.
what Ron's doing on Monday nights.
Oh, please, no. I was guilty of watching the Silver Bachelor though for an episode, just one episode.
Oh,
Just trying to see what would happen if a guy my age was, widowed and that was as bad as the show. But anyway, um, but to the point being, there isn't much time, and I know two of my son-in-laws hunt the two that married the twins, and they were shocked at how much responsibility comes with a toddler at home,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then if 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 depending on their career path, some career paths are 50 weeks a year, you barely get any time off, and
Yep.
that they could rely on an organization to be like, well, at least I know I can do this at a certain point,
Mhm.
because taking time away from, I'm not going to pick on married couples because I am one, but
Yeah.
to say, hey, I want to go do something by myself isn't always feasible. Does now that you're the hunter and Ben's the new hunter, you're going to have to figure out ways. Well, you already have a way to do it. That's your job. This is all self-serving, Brittany. This is
See
all
what I did there?
self-serving.
What's so funny about that, Ron? People, that I tell them what I do for a living or what I get the opportunity to do because I love it so much. For 5 years now, I've been doing this, and it's they say, well, you must hunt all the time, and I'm like, well, actually, I don't hunt as much as I used to because this job is so important and it's so special to me that like it does take more time outside of the field than in the field, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for the world. But you're exactly right. Like we're competing with so much time constraints.
Yeah.
And kids nowadays, and I don't know how old your grandkids are, but they don't just play one sport and then move to another sport and then have some downtime. These kids are in year-round sports and tutoring and academic stuff and extracurricular activities. And I mean, it's way more hard pressed schedule wise than what I remember growing up for myself. And I was, again, like I said, a tomboy. I played all the sports. And so it's really fun to be able to sprinkle in opportunities for these kids to gravitate towards and experience. And what I like, and our team just talked about this week, is whether we end up inspiring a kiddo to grow up to be the 60-day-a-year hunter or the opening day hunter, we think that's a win, right? Because
Right.
now they're going to going to vote on water access and public land, and they understand the importance of that. They understand the importance of firearms and safety and the right to bear arms, and there's just so many other side effects that are good to being in the outdoors.
Yeah. And that carryover of their thought process, you think about sports, like you mentioned sports, it drives me crazy. And when the grandkids start doing, like our oldest is in Florida, he's 6, and I'm already like, no, he's already starting to play
It's
football.
starting, yep.
And I'm basically against it only because when we were kids, that this didn't exist when you were 5 years old, and the when you said about carrying over at the voting booth someday, it does make a big difference, because if you look at sports in general, like I think it's a ridiculous amount of money. I'm even though I'm not an academic, I think education should be more than sports. But look how big sports is. You get people going to, they've never played a sport and they wouldn't miss a game on television. So
Yeah.
if you can get the people that think this is as cool as sports, or at least even, then
Mhm.
you've got something in the future that's gonna, at least be on our side,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you couldn't have said that better. It's so true. It's so true.
because I'll never understand. I'll see friends of ours like, yeah, we're having a NASCAR party. You've never drove a race car, but they were kind of raised on it and they
Yeah.
like it. And if it was on the voting booth, if NASCAR was going to be eliminated, they'd be voting, hell no, no,
My gosh, they're gonna be there.
we're gonna keep NASCAR. I don't care if people crash once in a while. We're gonna keep
Yes.
NASCAR. So
Yeah.
it's what do does Pass It On have, like, I don't want to say aggressive goals, but does it do you set benchmarks for the company to
Oh,
to
yeah.
not just a plateau, but your goal is world domination, so to speak?
Yes. Our goal is to take every child in the United States out hunting.
I like it. I like it.
Honestly, yeah, like dream big, right? But we do have a goal. So by 2033, we would love to serve 100,000 kids in the outdoors.
Wow.
And that is just like, if we get super finite about our mission, is to provide opportunities and empower kids in the outdoors, right? Obviously, we're going to want to plan the most number of events we can every year.
Right.
But we do track a lot of other outcomes to that. So how much land access do we have? How much of that is public versus private versus like hunting preserves? How many volunteer mentors are we serving? How many kids are hunting with us? And how many of those are repeat kids?
Yeah.
Starting to have some discussions with our partners like the Iowa Department of Natural Resources to see if we can do some longitudinal studies and track the kids that have been hunting with us and see what they do past 18.
Yeah.
When they go to college and they all of a sudden find themselves, well, maybe in college, at trade school, maybe they're starting a family, who knows, right? The world is their oyster. What are they doing at 18 compared to kids who don't hunt with us? Are we inspiring kids enough to where they do continue to buy a license
That'd be
once they're
great
on
to get the information on that. I mean, you'd
Yeah.
have to think anecdotally, yeah, it works. Obviously, it can't be 100% because people get distracted. People, that same child that you took hunting a few years in a row and almost became like family, because I'm sure some of them almost do become family, because,
They do,
like
yeah.
you said, some of them go multiple times a year, so they're hooked. But it would be great to see that path. and have to have some data on that, you know.
Mhm.
But I think in general, nobody's going to argue with the mission, you know.
Yeah, right,
Whether
right.
you ever have the empirical data or not, they're not going to go, yeah, that didn't work. It's
Yeah.
not going to do
Well,
that.
because you can't tell me that after 18, all of your kids buy a license, right? And
Right.
like we just, that's not the only thing that's important. I mean,
No.
that's like the shiny, cool object that would be cool to reach. But
Right.
the secondary impacts of all of that are way more important and way more
Oh,
special, I think, to my entire team, especially to myself,
yeah.
to help facilitate.
Yeah, it would be like baseball. Every kid that played little league in sports in high school didn't go on to college in the pros,
Exactly.
but they
Exactly. What is that percent? I was just having that conversation. I think it's like less than 2% of high school athletes will go play in college.
right, right.
I mean,
But
that's slim, right?
but they're going to be pro sports their whole life.
Exactly. Exactly.
And pro dog,
Exactly.
you know, something near and dear to me obviously is the dog. And you let me down when I asked you what breed of dog Magnolia was, but I'm going to forgive you because all the good you do. Um,
Well, thank you.
um, you when you're looking for volunteers, that especially with not as much with dove hunting, but certainly dogs can have a purpose there. With the duck hunting and the upland bird hunting. So that's just another layer that you have to make sure when you find that person's also got to have not just a dog, but a somewhat well-trained dog, right? I mean,
Yes.
because that could be like giving a monkey a switchblade, you know.
Yes.
It's gonna ruin
Yes.
it's gonna ruin the day if it's the wrong dog.
Yeah. We've been really fortunate with kind of how we operate our program. It's really intentional. It's really relational. So, Ron, if you signed up to be a mentor in our program, you're not just like on this like call list and going to be going out with no communication. Like I'm going to be talking to you quite a bit. So, I myself, as a program coordinator, will probably get to know you and your dogs pretty good and understand, like, that wrong guy, he's all right, but his dogs are questionable. We might need to have another volunteer with dogs on site, to help out with this. And
Right.
we just make sure there's a lot of transparency there. And I think showing kids how to hunt with dogs is so special. It's just like another layer
Yeah.
of sport that we all love that they get to experience for the first time. When that dog brings their first bird back to them,
Yeah, it's pretty
ugh,
special.
I mean,
Yeah.
we just had a kiddo in Iowa who's shot his first rooster, bird landed, his dog went and retrieved it, brought it back to him, and I mean the tears were flowing. I mean, this kiddo was beaming with joy, and it just there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, and it's probably even a bit of I'm trying to picture like, okay, we got this group of kids are coming in. We know they're okay with a gun, but there's all different levels of shyness and extroverts and introverts. But just the dogs around the tailgates during a safety, like that's got to add a little layer of comfort to like all the kids, right? Even if they're not the most gregarious, all of a sudden the dog comes up and he's like, "Well, this could be more fun with the dog,"
Yeah. Like I'm a little shy around adults, but dogs don't discriminate. They're great.
Right. Yeah, they're the best advocacy for
They are. They really are. Yeah. That it's pretty rich to be able to share that through our program. And
well,
honestly, our volunteers love it, Ron, because they get to run their dogs more often.
oh yeah, everybody loves that. But
Yeah, especially when we do preserve hunts. I know a lot of people have different opinions about preserves and call them canned hunts, call them whatever type of hunts you want to call them. I think they're great opportunities for kids to learn in a
yeah,
really controlled setting. If we know where birds are planted and we can show kids how dogs work. I mean,
right.
because each dog works so differently too. You've got flushers, you've got pointers, you've got dogs who've got minds of their own.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you get the chance to kind of show these kids that in a very safe way, I mean, it's great work for the dogs, and the handlers feel more confident with them, and the kids get to witness that really close and intimately. So it's incredible.
I, we could ignore the words canned hunt and go on to the next conversation, but
Yeah.
tell everybody, as deep as I've been in this since I was a teenager, if it
Mhm.
wasn't for the state of Illinois having a state-run program, meaning they put the birds out, on 3 different pieces of state property, and you had to apply for a day to get there, or you could get in the will call line. Had it not been for that, when I was a kid, at that age in the 70s, we weren't going to get in our car and knock on a farmer. Farmer wasn't going to let me and 3 of my buddies. Now, we didn't have hair down to our shoulders, but I looked at my high school yearbook, and every one of us had this stupid mop of hair. We couldn't have knocked on a door and developed. So we developed it, in our high school years. We went to Des Plaines area or Kankakee County state game area, which was not wild birds. It was released birds. And we were able to shoot hens and roosters because they were released birds. But that experience, it wasn't like we were there with some real legit hunters and really good dogs that we got to meet.
Yeah.
We didn't have any, but it planted that seed in all of us.
Yes.
And so I have, when somebody says, wild birds, public land, I'm like, it's not all, that's not the end all and be all,
I agree. I agree. If we looked at that, hyper focused on that, Ron, we'd have even fewer hunters than we do today.
Oh, yeah. If your only criteria to be a bird hunter was like, well, I'm going to only hunt wild birds. Well, good luck. Then you have to travel, and then you have to be away from the family. And it's a big industry. And I have never, but people always kind of say that, they're like, well, we go to a preserve, and the dogs don't care.
They sure don't. In fact, they probably like it more. It's a guarantee.
Right. And you don't have to teach them to not run after a hen. But anyway, I'm digressing. But
No, that's okay. What
I mean, that's how I
about
learned. I learned from a state program that we didn't have, pass it on back then. But the state even, you can't think, like, I'd like to know, I should have looked up the history in Illinois, like what senator or representative said, hey, you know what we need to do? We don't have enough wild bird. We don't have enough public land. We just don't have a good enough habitat anymore. And there's organizations working on all those things all the time. But for the state of, there's actually still, I think, 23 states that still currently do it.
wow. I didn't realize there's that. That's amazing.
One of them that surprised me was Wyoming. Like, you would think, like, why would Wyoming have a stock release program? It's for opportunity. Right. It's for opportunity. Right. It's not for bragging rights. It's for a place to go and an opportunity to do something you like, and that might become a lifelong passion.
Right. I love that. I think what's cool about that too, Ron, is you're teaching these kids what opportunities are out there for careers and potential, right? Like, sure, they can become a doctor, a lawyer, plumber, whatever they have their heart set on. But a lot of our kids are getting excited about wildlife work, whether it be a biologist or something in habitat, or, there's programs like at K-State University where it's like wildlife management, education. Like, you get to learn how to run a preserve or a sporting clay lodge. And I mean, that's really neat.
Yeah, I would bet if you ever did get that empirical data that you'd find that a certain X, whatever the X number was of your, let's call them graduates, if you will, are probably following things that involve the environment, whether it's, enforcement, game enforcement, or just biology. So there's another rollover benefit. Yeah.
We're going to keep racking them up.
What did you do in school?
You know what? I was a psychology major, sociology.
What?
I know. There is for one
Your poor husband. Your poor husband.
I know. God bless him. God bless him. I told myself I want to be a marriage family therapist, right? I decided that wasn't for me after all. But what I do like is I like research, and I like data, and I like encouraging policies and procedures based off of data and numbers. And so that was actually a great background for me to kind of trickle into this role. And I got started with Outdoor Mentors as a volunteer back in 2015, believe it or not. I played softball in college.
How did they contact you, or did you contact them?
Well, so they contacted me, ironically. So I was playing college softball in Wichita, played 70 games a season, couldn't take my guns to my dorm room. Like when I did go home, it probably wasn't during a hunting season and I just wanted to hang out with my family. So I kind of had a little bit of a lapse there during my
Yeah.
college years. So I started interning at Big Brothers Big Sisters, ironically.
Okay.
And long and behold, our program president, Mike, was there and he was looking for some women to help mentor some of the young ladies in his program. Because one thing we don't do is we don't allow kids to go out in a one-on-one setting. So, Ron, if you were somebody I was mentoring, it would never just be you and I out there. There'd
Right.
always be other kids or other mentors on like a upland hunt, or if it was like a turkey or deer hunt where it's, more one-on-one type setting in like a deer blind. I would require your parent to go or an uncle to go or some type of third party to be part of that effort. So Mike had a lot of young ladies in his program and couldn't find any women to take these young girls out and just show them the ropes. And so he came into my cubicle one day and asked me if I wanted to take an inner city kid out hunting. And I said, "Excuse me."
I would have
You
said,
want
can
me
I
to
do
do
that?
that?
Can I do that on the clock or do I have to do it on my own time?
Exactly. I said, like, how does this work? He goes, well, we're going to leave at this time on this day, drive out to BFE, Kansas, and go turkey hunting. And I'm like, "Now count me in. Why not?" And I remember telling my parents about it for the first time. And oh, they were concerned. "You're going to do what? And you're going to drive where? And are you sure you want to get into that?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And here's the first experience I had driving from Kansas to Harveyville, or Wichita, Kansas to Harveyville, Kansas. We drove through the Flint Hills and I had two kiddos in my backseat. One in particular was kind of freaking out as we were driving along, asking, "Brittany, what is that? What is that? What is that out there?" And I look and I'm like, "Well, that's cow." And no, what is that out there? I'm like, "Gosh, well, the Flint Hills at this time, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're being burned. They're just they're beautiful right now, right? Like everything's flourishing. There are antelope out there. There are prairie chickens out there. So maybe he saw something else." So we pull over and we look out that window and I said, "Buddy, that is just a beef cow, a black Angus beef cow."
Huh.
And I could see the humiliation kind of just like flush through his face, right? Like he, in that moment, realized for the first time that like cows weren't just dairy cow, like black and white dairy cows.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I call it my holy cow moment because I just sat there and thought, this is the most important volunteer work I will ever do because this is an opportunity I was privileged with. I had cows in my backyard, Ron.
Right.
Like
Right.
I had the ability to go out and shoot a rooster and bring it home, and my mom and my dad would teach me how to, clean it up, and then we'd eat it for dinner. And this kiddo came from a family that they didn't have resources to buy protein, let alone know where that protein came from for their family.
Yeah.
And so it's just ever since that, April of 2015 is when I first got started. It's been just one experience after another like that where you realize how critical a program like this is.
Yeah. I can't remember. I was listening to a person on a podcast and it was about more like it had a thread of hunting on it,
Yeah.
but they mentioned like if you took a class of kindergarten, let's say 6-year-old kids in a class and you brought in a radio and you put it on the table. Some of them would gravitate toward it. Some of them would turn the knobs. Other ones would keep doing what they're doing. But if you brought a frog in there and put it on the table, every
Mm.
kid would be like something internal to them because they're so young. They would have to go look at it, grab it,
Yeah.
poke at it, be afraid of it or whatever. Like they would all have that interest. But then enough years go by and they've never, they literally have not seen the outdoors, whether it's a cow or not.
Dirt roads. We have kids who have never seen dirt roads before.
And your roads are terrible in Kansas, by the way. I'm just like, everybody, every
Hey,
time they are terrible.
we're a step up from Oklahoma, so I think that's all right.
Okay, that's not saying much because I got stuck on some of your Kansas roads one year. Oh my God. That would be you might as well teach them how to change tires and get trucks out of ditches too as
Yeah,
part of the program.
that can happen sometimes here.
Yeah. You have a fluctuating hard pack frozen gravel in the morning, wet concrete road by 12 o'clock noon problem.
Yes.
What
That's about right, actually.
so without having yourself a bird dog, we'll leave Magnolia's breed out of it. It's a wonderful house dog.
She is.
What of your opportunities? Has it been just through the mentoring program, or did you have some friends before pass it on that had some dogs and you were like, come on, let's go. Did you have somebody
Yeah.
that's friends with dogs?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So we grew up, and a lot of my uncles, so the dogs I mostly hunted behind from a young age were labs.
Mhm.
That's just what we had, especially because they were great waterfowl dogs too for them. So I'm kind of, you know, leaning towards labs. I love them, but I do love German Shorthair pointers. They're fun. I love to hunt behind pointers. I've got a couple of volunteer mentors in our program who are now my friends, and they
Yeah,
have pointers, or Brittany's too. I can't leave them out.
right.
Um, and they're great dogs. They're fun personalities. They're just so lovely to hunt behind.
Short hairs, I say, are like, Ford pickup trucks. They used to have that advertisement, number one selling pickup truck in America, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, well, I don't know. I can't think of it. I mean, we kind of covered a little bit of everything. Anything besides the youngster with the cow for the first time? Anything stick
Uh,
out is a worthy story? Has anybody gone on
yeah.
to be a famous congressperson or teacher? Or do we have any famous would you even call them a graduate? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they've completed our program, there's not a formal, here's your cap and gown kind of thing, but I
no,
would say all them graduates for sure. Yeah. And really, Ron, there's so many stories I could talk for 6 hours, and it doesn't help that I have the gift of gab. So I'll share like one really cool experience that's really happened in the last 3 years in our program that I've been able to kind of help facilitate, but just ultimately like witness because these kids are hunting with us. But there's a group of kids, they shoot for the Bishop Carroll trap team here in town. It's a Catholic school. They have a really great trap team. Obviously, all these kids live in the inner city, right? So abundance of public land is not close by. So a lot of the opportunities we create are within a driving range of Wichita. These kids, one kid in particular, is really shy. I mean, he is incredibly shy, kind of a little awkward, as you can imagine. He's a teenage boy. His dad grew up hunting, was really into baseball, and this kiddo just really didn't love sports, kind of went by the wayside. And the opportunity came about for him to take hunter ed and start going on hunts with us. And he did. And he kind of perked up a little bit and started building this confidence and started engaging more and socializing more. And then all of a sudden it came about that he could start shooting on the trap team at Bishop Carroll.
yeah,
And I tell you what, John, he's an incredible trap athlete, trap, ski, and sporting clay. He's doing all the disciplines now. And I tell you what, like being an observer of him and his confidence and how much it's changed has been, I mean, it makes me emotional to think about because I do think this changed this kid's life, the
yeah,
outdoors,
yeah,
in ways that he will not even understand until he's probably a little bit older. But now he's part of this trap team, and this group has created a hunting club, and they're called the Duck Dorks.
duck dorks.
It's great. So it's a bunch of like sophomore and juniors in high school, right? And what they do is they go to their parents when opening days come around and they say, Mom, Dad, and to those who are concerned, we would like the opportunity to go dove hunting before school on this day at this time. We promise to have all of our homework done and be at school on time. And sincerely, the Duck Dorks. I mean, it's just the best thing ever. So you see this kiddo who was once lacking in confidence and kind of just enthusiasm for what his purpose was in life, all of a sudden is just smothered in joy
Yeah.
because of the outdoors and now with friendship too. And it doesn't get any better. It really doesn't.
No, yeah, I mean, that's a perfect way to wrap it up. I mean, that kind of impact, and it's probably done it 1,000 times, but that's one that sticks out.
Yes.
Because yeah, if you were not raised by real gregarious parents and didn't learn to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand, you're a little handicapped, in a sense. And for somebody to blossom out like that, and then I wouldn't be surprised if he was the kid that said, "Hey, let's make this club." And I tell you what, let's ask for days off school. That's a
Yeah.
180-degree turnaround. Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Amazing.
So let's recap it, Brittany.
Yeah.
You're based out of Kansas. You've got program and mentors in Iowa and now in Wisconsin.
Sure.
I would not be surprised if, I'd be shocked if this doesn't keep spreading out, like a
Yes.
wild, like a slow wildfire. Um, if people think this is a program that they want to get involved with, it could be one group in one state. What's the best way for, I know people can go on and do the application for mentoring, but if someone just wants to like learn more about it, or do they literally talk to you, or is it all on?
Yeah. Yeah, they can absolutely reach out to me. All of our our staff's contact information is on our website, which is outdoormentors.org.
Okay.
Um, Love to facilitate those conversations and learn about how we can best help them. And that's how we started expanding in the first place, Ron, is, folks like the Iowa Department of Natural Resources called us and said, I like your program. We saw your presentation. Here's some money. Let's get this program started. So, like you said, I do think we'll continue to grow and expand. We've got a few states showing more interest, and really there's no ceiling on it, in my opinion. So if somebody's out there with the resources or opportunities or ideas, we'd love to collaborate with them. If they want to
Okay.
become a volunteer mentor, it's as easy as filling out that application online, and we'll contact them pretty quickly.
Well, that sounds great. I'll wait a couple of years until Finley is maybe two. I'm sure you're not going to start right out with, shotguns or anything. And please do not be the mom with the baby with the headphones on. Just just have Ben watch the baby while you go out and shoot. Okay. It always freaks me out when I see parents with backpack and earmuffs because my son-in-law wanted to do that with my granddaughter, and I put my foot down.
Yep. Yep. It's okay to leave them at home for a little while. She's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
young.
Wait until they're asking for it a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I can't wait to have those memories and share them. I'll
Well,
absolutely do that.
you're gonna have a even without any older brothers, you are gonna have a tomboy for a daughter. That's for sure.
I think that's yes. Writing's on the wall.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go, get back on with your day, and I'm gonna get back going here. I got two grandkids at the house right now, and I usually go in and help at lunchtime. That's my only thing I do. I go in and help at lunchtime.
Hey, you got to stick to what you're good at.
That's right. Grilled cheese sandwiches. That's my
I love it. I love it. Ron, thank you for having me on, and we sure appreciate it more than you know.
well, we can thank Brett from Walton's for that connection. And he said, I want you to he didn't he gave me an option, but he says, I want you to interview Brittany French. I'm like, who? Who? And
Who's this?
I'm very glad he put us in touch.
Yeah, yeah, I am too. Well, I'll give him a ring and tell him so.
All right. All right, we'll give them everything but the meats plug. Walton's, everything but the meats.
Absolutely.
You have everything, and you've got everything else covered.
Sure do.
All right. All right, Brittany. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. You take care.
All right, you too.